My name's Kale, and I'm 31. Being the middle child in a family obsessed with image. Let me tell you, it taught me a thing or two. Disappearing doesn't mean they've forgotten you. It just means they're ignoring you until they need something. For years, I played nice. It wasn't that I was a pushover, but arguing with my family was like setting off a bunch of tiny emotional bombs. Nobody wanted that drama. My older sister, Bri, was always the center of attention. The picture-perfect Instagram life, Pinterest-obsessed, and entitled to the max. And Mom? She practically ran Bri's PR like a full-time gig. Me? I was the quiet one, the behind-the-scenes helper, the one they called when a car broke down or they needed a quick loan until payday. So when Bri got engaged, I didn't get my hopes up. I sent a text wishing her well, offered to lend a hand if they needed it, and otherwise kept to myself. I didn't expect to be a bridesmaid or anything fancy. Heaven forbid I steal her thunder with my completely ordinary self. But I figured, maybe naively, that I'd at least be treated like family, you know. Especially since I'd been secretly helping them out financially for the past year. So I helped my mom pay for the engagement party place, right? Then Bree, bless her heart, totally forgot the invoice for the florist's deposit when Dad's card got rejected. I even lent Bree a few hundred when she messed up her dress money. I didn't make a big deal of it, never expected a thank you, but I figured I'd earned at least one seat. Just one. The wedding day itself. Man, it was that sickeningly perfect kind of day only Bree could manage. Everything was dripping with this fake elegance. The old-timey vineyard, the old lanterns, the menus all done up fancy, the signs telling everyone to savor the moment. I got there early, maybe 15 minutes before, wearing the navy suit Bree had once said wasn't too much. In my hand, I had a simple card with an envelope. It was my gift, a pretty big one since I knew they were aiming for that fancy Italy trip. It was how I was trying to show I'm here for you, even if I'm not all that important to you. When I went to check in, I gave my name, expecting the usual, nod and directions. Instead, the girl at the table was looking at the list. She squinted and said, I don't see a Kale listed here. Are you sure you're not someone's +1? I blinked and gave her my last name. Still nothing. The guy next to her peeked at the paper and said, sorry, sir, maybe you should go to the overflow table. Overflow. So I'm walking toward the front, all confused, checking out these fancy tables. Gorgeous centerpieces, fancy glasses, the whole 9 yards. But my name wasn't on any of the place cards. I found Ava, my cousin, and she kinda awkwardly waved me over. She whispered, Kale, I think you're near the back, like by the bathrooms. She mumbled something about them being short on space or something. But then I saw Bree's friend from high school, someone she hadn't talked to in ages, sitting up front, laughing it up with my aunt. And then bam, there he was. Maka, my ex, the guy who totally ghosted me after 2 years. And get this, he's now Bree's best friend's roommate. He was in the front row, looking all sharp in his suit, smiling like he owned the place. And me? Apparently I didn't belong. I just stood there, staring, until my mom put a hand on my arm. She looked amazing in that pale pink dress, all done up, not a hair out of place, but her expression, like she'd just seen a spill on her favorite dress. Kale, she said, all quiet and stiff. I didn't know you were actually coming. I RSVP'd, I mumbled, trying not to sound like I was about to cry. She gave me this fake smile, one of those smiles that doesn't reach the eyes. Well, we weren't sure, she said. You know how you are about big events, and well, Bree really put a lot of effort into the aesthetic. Aesthetic, the word just hung there. It felt like a punch to the gut. I turned to look back at him again. My spot was there, right by the bathroom door, a flimsy metal chair. No fancy stuff, just a plain white napkin. The shame just ate at me. I stared at the check in my hand, a big one, enough for those fancy beachfront rooms Bree kept raving about. I wanted to bolt. I really should have just walked out. But then I remembered everything. All the times I'd sucked it up so they wouldn't feel bad. All the jokes at my expense, all the times I pretended it was just teasing. Every time they quietly took money from my account to fix their messes. Every single birthday they forgot while making a big show of how great I was. This time, though, no way, I was done. With a calmness I didn't actually feel, I walked right down the middle of the room, past all the happy people and that fancy string quartet playing something I didn't know. I got to the head table. Bree, all smiles and perfect hair, was mid-laugh. The second she saw me, her face fell. I just looked right at her. It got quiet, real quiet, like everyone suddenly held their breath. I reached into my coat, pulled out the envelope, and put it down on the table in front of her. Then, loud enough for everyone to hear, I said, "You can pay for your own honeymoon now." Her jaw dropped. A few people turned to stare. I saw Micah squirm in his seat. Her face went white, but I didn't stick around for her answer. I just spun around and headed for the door. I didn't glance back as I passed the photo booth, or those perfect little macarons, or the sign that said Bree and Callum. a love story written in the stars. Behind me, I could hear the confused chatter growing louder, forks clinking as people paused their meals, chairs scraping as they craned their necks, and whispers cutting through the fake happiness. I got to my car, my heart hammering in my chest, and just sat there, staring at the steering wheel. My hands were shaking, not because I regretted what I'd done, but because the weight of years of being treated poorly had finally exploded. I didn't cry immediately, but when I started the car, the tears just started flowing. It wasn't sadness, but an overwhelming exhaustion, like my spirit had been carrying a massive burden for ages and I'd finally put it down. I drove home without saying a word, ignoring the wave of texts that flooded my phone less than 10 minutes after I left. First, a text from my brother, Leo. "Dude, what the hell is going on?" Then from my aunt, "Are you all right? That was a surprise." Then a call from Mom, which I sent straight to voicemail. Then another and another. I finally killed the phone when Bry's name flashed across the screen. I knew exactly what that call would be about. No apology, no attempt to understand, just damage control. When I woke up the next morning, it felt like everything had finally come undone. 37 unread messages, 4 voicemails, and an email from Bree. Seriously? I shouldn't have, but I opened it anyway. "Kale, where do I even start?" I tried to be nice. "I didn't make a fuss when you just showed up, even though you weren't even on the list. Then you totally humiliated me in front of everyone during the toast. I was a complete mess, locked in the bridal suite for like an hour while Callum tried to chill me out. Mom said you were probably just bummed out, but honestly, you should be embarrassed. We had a whole plan, a whole theme. You knew how much that day meant to me, and you made it all about yourself. Please send the check when you feel better. We already paid for the hotel and can't get any of that money back." Bree, that last line. Honestly, please send the check. Like my feelings were just a little kid's meltdown and my upset could be fixed with a late payment. I just stared at the email for a while, wondering if I was more mad or just completely stunned by the audacity. Eventually, I just shut my laptop and just moved on with my life. I didn't respond. I didn't need to because things were about to get really, really bad. 2 days later, I got a call from Callum's older sister, Jasmine. We'd only met once real quick at a family cookout, but she remembered me. She said she hoped it wasn't too awkward to call, but she just wanted to ask me something. "Did you really not have a seat?" she asked gently. "Because that's not what Bree's telling people. I just told her the truth. Every single little detail. That stupid folding chair, the missing name tag, it all comes back to me. My ex had a way better seat than I did, and my mom acted like it was totally fine." She paused, then let out a big sigh. "That explains so much," she finally said. Turns out, Callum's family had noticed weird stuff, too. They figured out who'd gotten bumped at the last minute, people whose plus ones were suddenly uninvited because of space. And get this, Callum's grandpa, who's in a wheelchair, was stuck at the very end of this long table, all alone. Nobody even helped him get there. Jasmine said Callum was furious when I left. He had no clue what was going on. I didn't know what to say. Was he mad at me or at Bree? It didn't really matter, things just kept getting worse. Later that night, my cousin Ava texted a blurry picture of the seating chart she'd secretly taken. My name wasn't even on it, but Micah's was huge letters, front table on the left. Ava texted, "Did she invite him instead of you? Because it totally looks like it." Then Bree started posting wedding photos on Facebook, all carefully chosen, of course. But people noticed I wasn't in a single shot. Not the big group photo, not the ceremony, nothing. Not even in the background of any photos. Then the comments started. At first, they were polite. "Didn't Kale make it? Where's your brother?" Then they got a little sharper. "Heard something went down at the wedding. Hope everything's okay." That's when Bree deleted the whole album, just wiped it clean. No explanation whatsoever. 3 days after the wedding, Mom just showed up at my place. No call, nothing, she just knocked, like she used to when I was in college and I'd missed dinner again. She had a pink box from a bakery. Lemon bars, my absolute favorite, but I didn't answer the door. "Kale, honey," she said through the wood, "can we talk?" I didn't say a word. "You embarrassed your sister," she mumbled, still nothing from me. "You know I hate it when things get like this," she added, her voice strained. Finally, she put the box down on my welcome mat and walked away. I watched through the peephole, my heart hammering, my hands clenched tight. It wasn't anger exactly, more like this deep, hollow ache. Like I'd spent my whole life hoping for something real from her, something tender. All she ever had was sweets and blame. Those lemon bars, straight into the garbage. By the end of the week, practically every distant relative had gotten in touch. Some were just curious, kind of unsure what to say. Others were furious for Bree, but a few people quietly admitted they'd seen it all along, that I wasn't making it up, that this wasn't just some one-off thing. It was years of being the go-to person, the silent player in a drama I was never allowed to be a part of. Suddenly, I was getting coffee invites. Cousins I hadn't talked to in ages wanted to catch up. One uncle even offered to pay me back for part of the wedding gift I'd almost given them. And then the biggest shock, a text from Callum. "Hey, Cale, can we talk?" I left Callum's text sitting there for almost 2 days. It wasn't out of meanness. Honestly, I didn't even know what I was hoping to get out of that conversation. I was still pretty messed up, still trying to figure out how I'd been intentionally left out instead of just, overlooked. Then again, I was worried that he'd try to smooth talk me into keeping things quiet, all for the sake of Bree's reputation. She was all about appearances, and I'd just thrown a wrench into her perfect story. But then I thought about what Jasmine had said. How Callum had been furious, how he claimed to have no clue, which wasn't how Bree always made him out to be. So I finally texted back. "I'll talk, but not on the phone. We met at this little cafe downtown, those hipster joints with weird mugs and shelves full of books nobody ever touched." I got there early, snagged a table in the back, and sat there with my stomach churning. When he walked in, he looked wiped out, not all done up like in the wedding pics. He saw me, gave a little wave, and sat down. "Thanks for coming," he said, quiet as a mouse. I didn't say anything, I just looked at him, waiting. He let out a breath. "I want to start by saying I'm sorry," and I didn't. I didn't know about the seating, about the guest list, about Micah, any of it. That last part really got to me. "You didn't know Micah was invited?" I asked, doubtful. "No," he said with feeling. "Bree told me you weren't coming. Bree mentioned you didn't let them know you'd be at the wedding since you're not really into big events," she said. Honestly, I almost cracked up. That was so like Bree, just a little bit of truth to sound convincing, but still dodging any real blame. "I RSVP'd online," I stated, kind of annoyed. "Weeks ago." Callum rubbed his face like he was totally wiped out. Apparently, she'd planned everything herself. I probably should have paid more attention, but everything happened so quickly. I just stayed quiet and let the silence hang in the air. Finally, he looked up at me. "She lied to me, Cale, not just about you, about a lot of stuff. I'm still figuring it all out." I really took a look at him then. Something was in his eyes. Sure, regret, but also that slow, creeping realization you see when someone figures out they married a fake and are only just starting to see who's really there. "I don't know if I should say anything," I said after a beat, "but maybe you should check out the honeymoon receipts. 'Cause I know for sure my mom said you couldn't swing that upgrade. That's why I was giving you that check. Not because I had to, but because I thought she actually loved you." He nodded slowly. "She told me her parents were paying for it, that they wanted to surprise us with the upgrade." I blinked. "They didn't," I said. He swallowed hard. "I thought so." We sat there in silence for a while, the cafe buzzing around us. Then he leaned forward, put his elbows on the table, and spoke in a low voice. "Could you humor me for a sec?" I nodded. He looked right at me, searching my eyes. "Why didn't you just walk out? When you saw where they put you, when they started in on you, why not just leave?" I stared at my full drink for a beat, then met his gaze. "Because I've spent my life walking away," I told him. "Every single time they made me feel like I was either too much or nowhere near enough. Every time I was the butt of their jokes, their errand boy, their plan B, I just quietly disappeared so they wouldn't feel bad. But not this time. This time they humiliated me. They did it on purpose in front of everyone, and I needed them to understand, truly understand, that I wasn't going to take it anymore." Callum nodded slowly, reached into his jacket, and pulled out a small envelope. "She wanted me to give you this," he said. "After she heard we were getting together." I didn't reach for it. "I doubt it's an apology," I mumbled. He let out a dry laugh. "No, it's, well, she's asking you to keep quiet about all this, says it's damaging her reputation." "Ah," I replied, "the truth hurts, doesn't it?" He nodded again, and this time something else flashed across his face. "Anger, maybe, or shame. I didn't know who I married," he confessed. I leaned back. "Maybe you married the person she pretends to be. We all did, in a way." We didn't say much after that. He took care of the bill, thanked me for coming, and walked out, his steps slow and heavy. It was a strange few days after the wedding. Things were calmer, but this weird tension hung in the air. Bree hadn't reached out, but her people had. One of her friends slid into my Instagram DMs, all passive-aggressive, calling me a drama queen and saying real families don't trash weddings over a chair. I didn't even bother replying. I knew things were shifting. Then Aunt Mara, who's always got something to say, called. She said, "Cale, I saw that picture of you from last year's party. You were in the back then, too. I just didn't notice." Her voice got all shaky. I told her softly, "Yeah, none of you did, 'cause I never made a fuss about it." There was this long silence. Finally, she said, "I'm sorry, Cale." The next day, she posted a picture on Facebook, not from the wedding, but from a family reunion years ago. It was a candid shot of me holding my niece, smiling, while everyone else was all over Bree. Her caption, just, "Sometimes the quietest ones are the ones holding everything together." That post got way more likes than all of Bree's wedding pics combined. Later that week, Mom texted, "We need to talk. You've made things very difficult." I waited a whole day to even open it. Not because I didn't see it, but because I wanted to feel what it was doing to me. That same old mix of feeling like I had to do something, guilt, and that quiet, simmering anger. "You've made things very difficult." Not "let's talk," not "I'm sorry," not "can we figure this out?" That one sentence, it just pinned all the blame on me again. I finally decided to open it up on a drizzly Thursday night, all snuggled up on my couch, hearing the rain tap against the window, kinda like an old-school metronome. It was setting the beat for my thoughts, you know? I just stared at the message for a few beats, then flipped my phone over on the coffee table. I didn't text back, not that night or the next day, not at all. And that silence, the one I used to fill up with apologies or doing people favors or saving the day at the last minute, it got louder by the hour. I think that's when things started to fall apart, really. It started slow. Missed calls, then a group chat, still nothing. Some subtle, kind of rude posts on Facebook from one of Bree's bridesmaids, talking about loyalty and how family drama ruins weddings. I just didn't reply. Most of the family didn't either. But then I started getting messages. Real ones from people I hadn't talked to in ages, sometimes years even. Cousins, aunts, even some of Bree's old friends. One of my cousins, Jules, messaged me late one night. She just wanted to say, "You weren't wrong." She remembered when Bree uninvited her from her birthday dinner because her dress wasn't the right shade of purple pink. Jules said she felt bad for still thinking about it, but now she understood. Someone else sent me a picture from Bree's wedding, a candid shot somebody else took. It was blurry and not the greatest picture. It showed me standing near the bathroom hallway, holding my phone in one hand, the wedding card in the other. Just by myself, like totally forgotten, like I was just background noise. That message really hit hard after I got the whole story, you know? She didn't even mention you were there. After about a week, Bree vanished completely. No more updates online, no honeymoon pictures. There was just this one Instagram story, now gone, with a picture of the beach all filtered up, and the caption, "Some people are just set on being the bad guy in your life." It didn't go the way she planned, though. The comments weren't what she wanted. "You mean your own brother, the one who helped pay for half your wedding, and he was right there in the bathroom? Villains don't usually write checks for $3,000. Just saying." "And so is your whole vibe just cutting out anyone who doesn't fit your brand?" I didn't write those comments. I didn't have to. Everyone was figuring it out themselves. Then bam, the real bomb dropped. Jasmine texted me on a Monday. "Callum moved out. He's staying with me." I was just frozen. I hadn't spoken to Callum since we got coffee, didn't expect anything past some quiet sadness. But apparently that quiet sadness turned into a huge argument. Turns out Bree lied about more than just you. She got a second credit card in his name to pay for all the extra wedding stuff, promising to deal with it later. He only found out when the bill came. He said he doesn't even know who she is anymore. That's when it hit me I wasn't just some person who'd been left out. My absence had messed things up, basically. It exposed a weakness in Bree's perfectly crafted life. 3 weeks later, Mom showed up again. This time it wasn't a message. It was a knock on the door. I almost didn't answer, but I figured it was time to see where this was going. When I opened the door, there she was, all done up, but her eyes looked worn out. She stared at me like she was expecting a disaster. "Kale," she whispered. I moved and let her in. She sat real straight on the couch, hugging her purse like it was a life preserver. "I came to talk," she said. "Really talk, not avoid, not make excuses." I just sat there, not saying anything. She took a breath. "I didn't see it. I truly didn't. I thought we were looking out for Bree, that she needed more, that you were okay." That made me laugh, a mean, quiet laugh, because I didn't say anything. She looked down. "Yeah, I wasn't okay," I told her, "but it was simpler for everyone if I pretended to be." "So I did." She slowly nodded, messing with her purse strap. "I didn't want to make you feel small." "But you did," I said over and over in my head. "And not just you, Bree, Dad, the whole family. I was helpful, quiet, replaceable." There was a long pause. She didn't disagree, didn't fight back. That was new. "Your father and I." She started, then stopped. We got so used to Bree's drama, her demands, her outbursts. It was easier to handle her than to question her. "You were just easier to ignore." I blinked, stunned. That wasn't an "I'm sorry," but it was as close as I'd ever get. She finally looked up at me. "Kale, what now?" I really thought about it for a bit. "You could stop asking me to fix everything," I finally said. "You could start being honest with yourself and with everyone else. You could stop acting like Bree is the one who's suffering here." Mom just sat there quietly, then slowly nodded. "I can do that." Soon after, she left. No hug, no anything, just a calm, measured goodbye. I didn't think much would really change after that, but it did. A few days later, a family group text popped up on my phone, and Bree wasn't included. Leo, of all people, started it. He'd been pretty quiet through everything. His first message shocked me. "We gotta do better, starting with Kale. I'm sorry, bro." More messages flooded in. Apologies, old memories, emails, even people offering to meet up. For the first time in ages, I didn't feel like just a side character in someone else's story. And Bree, she kept completely silent. Rumors were flying around. Callum had officially filed to end the marriage. Her influencer friends stopped putting her in their posts. She made her Instagram private. Even my mother, when I saw her last, said Bree hadn't even called her back in over a week. I don't know what she'll do next, and honestly, I don't care. I spent so long thinking family meant disappearing into the background for everyone else, that love was just about holding on, and that silence was the only way to have some peace. Not anymore. I didn't get bitter. I got free. Okay, here's my story. If I'm the bad guy in someone's story, I can live with that. Tell me what you think, okay?